It's time for the biggest story of the day. This is what made the cut with JJ and Alex on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
And, of course, the cut brought to you by an incredible selection of Kia, Subaru, Chevy, Jeep, Dodge, or Ram. It's the Doug Smith family of dealerships in American Fork, Spanish Fork, and in Linden. Chandler Holt joins me right here, fresh off of you guys recording your Jazz Notes podcast, which people can go over to their podcasting platform of choice and take a listen to. Chandler, first of all, welcome to the program, man.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
All right. So you and Ben had the chance to hey, listen, it wasn't a 7-team trade that we had to try to break down, I guess. But at the same time, explain what the move was that happened today. We knew all the names that we knew that could have left this Jazz roster. John Collins was always toward the top of those names. After Jordan Clarkson and then Colin Sexton are leaving the team, and then John Collins, I thought maybe he was going to get there. He opted in, of course, on his last year of his player option, and so great. We knew there was something like this, but explain the trade, and then more importantly, explain what the heck is going on in Danny Ainge and Austin Ainge's mind.
So it was a 3-team trade. John Collins gets sent to the Los Angeles Clippers. The Clippers send Norman Powell, who had a great year last year, to the Miami Heat, and then the Jazz get back from the Heat Kevin Love, Kyle Anderson, and a 2027 second-round pick.
Yeah. Very valuable.
Yes. So, and the Jazz had just sent out 4 second-round picks, 3 to trade up to get Walter Clayton, and then 1 with Colin Sexton. So they get 1 back. Whoop-de-woo.
Good job. There you go.
Me and Ben just talked about this. I think the Jazz are going to buy out Kevin Love, $4 million. But
we're not going to see a Kevin Love jersey reveal press conference?
I doubt it.
Add him to the list of the guys to my Derrick Rose jersey that I've got in the pile. And
Russell Westbrook,
who is a 2-time Jazz man. Again, help me understand the business of this, because I think we're all looking at it, and our friend Tim Reynolds from the AP, who covers the NBA, sent out a tweet today that I think it encapsulates exactly the way we feel, I think, covering the team.
Yeah.
But also, I think fans feel this way too, where it's like, hey, I think there is a process. Yes. I trust that Danny Ainge, he told me there's a process. We trust the intelligence level of Danny Ainge. Nobody thinks that he's dumb. He's the smartest guy in the room typically. Add Austin Ainge to the mix, Justin Zanuck, of course. Those guys get together and they don't make dumb decisions. This is deliberate. And so what do Jazz fans get out of something like this, a move like this?
So I think it's kind of interesting, and it's a total, even though the outcome may be the same when you're looking at wins and losses or similar to last year, I think it's going to be different in the fact that like Jordan Clarkson, Lauri Markkanen, even like Walker Kessler, John Collins, these guys played between like 40 and max 60 games last year, right? Like there was a lot of wonky injury reports where you see 9 names on there, and it's
fines for the team for not playing Lauri Markkanen.
Exactly, but this next year it's going to be like there's 9 guys who are 23 and under on the team. So it's like all of them are going to have opportunity, and then you still have the Yusuf Nurkic, Kyle Anderson, Lauri Markkanen, these older guys who can like slow the game down a little bit for these young guys who just want to go, you know? So it's gonna look a little bit differently, but Austin Ainge, one of the things he said in his first press conference is it's going to be more fun, and I think it will be more fun.
I was talking about the Tim Reynolds tweet, and I didn't finish my thought on that. What it was he basically was like, hey, I trust the process. I trust Danny Ainge. But at this point, I kind of want to know a little bit of what's going on. Like, maybe let me know a little bit of what the plan looks like. Because making that move, I mean, obviously, you're looking at, I guess this just facilitates, ultimately it facilitates a lot of young guys getting a lot of touches.
Yes, exactly.
And also, from a lot of young guys getting a lot of touches, you're probably not going to win a ton of basketball games.
Yeah, precisely that. And also, there's a couple other like important things to note. One, like if the Jazz kept all these veterans and they're like, okay, we're done with the wonky injury reports and we're just going to play everyone as much as we can, there's a chance the Jazz end up with a 9, 10 to 14 lottery pick again, and then in that case it would go to OKC, and that's like the worst thing that can happen.
Yeah, you don't want that.
But now it's like you have all these young guys, you can get the best out of them, especially like Ace Bailey and Walter Clayton Jr. Like they're going to have a lot of chance to put up a lot of shots and see all sorts of different looks from defenses, play 30 minutes a night, and I think that's going to be good for them. But also I think it's important to note that Austin Ainge he's here now, right?
Yeah,
he is the shot caller, allegedly, from what everything has been coming out of the Jazz front office. So we don't know what he thinks about these young guys yet. You know, they were all his dad's picks coming in. So
we know what he thinks about Ace Bailey and Walter Clayton Jr.
Yes, exactly.
And you go, okay, and John Tonje, right? And you go, all right, those are the guys that they got in this draft. They know exactly what they're getting with those guys. And the breakup with guys that you don't have affiliation with beforehand, like that, it probably actually makes it a little bit easier because then you go, I don't have this connection here. This wasn't my move.
Yes.
And so I don't have to take that ego hit, right? Yep. That some of these guys do. That really does play into some of these decisions, right?
Oh, absolutely. And I will say the three dominoes of Colin Sexton, Jordan Clarkson, and John Collins. One, I will say, I think most likely case situation here is that the Jazz are mostly done. Like, we may see some two-way contracts get signed and other stuff like that. But heading into the next trade deadline and maybe even next offseason, it'll be interesting to see if there are young guys that get traded. Because, like I said, other than Ace Bailey and Walter Clayton, of course.
So even this season, when the All-Star break / the trade deadline is about to hit, there, I mean, on a roster like this, I mean, anything can happen. But at the same time, like, you're kind of those. There's not a lot of movement after the year starts then. That's kind of nice to be able to know there's not going to be some weird chaos right before the season starts here. And for all the people who are like, okay, there were names in the free agency. There was big game to be had in the free agency pool. There was technically, but the reality is teams come to the table with big names. I know that it's easy for like my son to go, dude, we should have gotten Giannis, dude. And I'm like, okay, well, I don't know. That's really, we should have gotten, right? Like, that's not really how it works. But at the same time, have there been those opportunities, do you think? I know the Jazz have shopped people before. So not only are they not thinking about bringing other names in, but I think that shopping other people might be off the table, at least for a little bit, right?
Not necessarily off the table, but I think that the Jazz are like, okay, like, pat ourselves on the back. We got off of those guys who were going to like take – like, there's a difference between John Collins, who's a 30-minute per game night, who's taken 30 minutes away from Kyle Filipowski, Taylor Hendricks, and these guys, compared to Kyle Anderson, who's going to be like a 15-minute a night guy, you know, but still have that veteran presence in the locker room. But yeah, I think that for now it's going to be calm waters for the Jazz. But like I said, going to the trade deadline, there's a chance Austin Ainge is like, this young guy and this young guy, I don't think they really fit with what I'm trying to do in the next couple of years. So let's see what they can get, right?
So all the people who thought that Giannis and Jaylen Brown were going to be in Jazz uniforms this next year, maybe pump the brakes a little bit because 2025, 2026 is not the year that the Jazz were looking to make their big move.
No, and also I think the each of the past 3 years where the Jazz, following the Donovan and Rudy trade, they sort of did some offloading at the trade deadline. Like last year, it was Simone Fontecchio, for example. He played really good for the Jazz, and they're like, okay, you're shooting a little bit too good. Let's send you off to Detroit. So I don't think there will be much of that this year because, like I said, there's probably like 9 23 and under guys who are going to be rotation players for the Jazz.
That's great, though, right? I mean, like, honestly, and we got our first round of Summer League, and then we get a game 2 tonight. We get to see the Grizzlies take on this young Jazz team. What were the best things you saw out of the first iteration of our first game in Summer League up at the Huntsman Center, now that went back to the historic venue that we've seen it at before?
So first thing, I'm going to sound like a broken record. I've said this multiple places now, but take everything you see in Summer League with a grain of salt. Steph Curry shot 32% in his Summer League. Victor Wembanyama shot 2 for 13 in his first Summer League game. Like, it is not a tell-all story.
We were pretty quick to say Donovan Mitchell's not looking great. It took preseason games for us to go, you know what, he's looking okay. We're gonna like
he's looking pretty good. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so what are the best things about these guys suiting up? Like, Bryce Sensabaugh had a good first outing. Everybody wanted to see what Ace Bailey was going to do. The athleticism's there. And then people were like, well, he only had 8 points. And you're like, oh. But again, it's the who freaking cares part of the Summer League.
Yes, exactly. I will say Ace Bailey had 7 rebounds. Like, everyone was like, oh, he's listed at 6'10" at Rutgers, came out, he's 6'7". Like, oh, that's kind of a red flag. But I think it's a good sign that he plays 6'10".
He's long.
Yeah,
he's
exactly.
Long.
And he's athletic. And he's like, even though he's skinny, he's not afraid to get down there. Like maybe we saw with cough, Cody Williams. And then, like you said, Bryce Sensabaugh shot the lace off the rim. Another player, Isaiah Collier's had sort of a iffy game, which is kind of interesting because he was pretty good last year for the Jazz.
A little bit of spitfire in that game too.
Yes.
A little bit pissy. That's okay. Yeah. I don't hate that.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely
who cares?
not.
What are the guys that maybe people are looking at and they go, all right, what are you getting out of who's getting the best out of this and who benefits the most from something like this? I was having this chat with our producer Alex before we were chatting about it. Was why is it that Keontae George maybe didn't get an invite? And I'm not saying like, oh, that kid needs to get the most minutes possible, but like we see sometimes these teams go, hey, we're going to send you over there. It's your third year, but we're going to send you over there anyway and like get your head around things a little bit. This isn't a diss on you, but I also feel like you have to babysit some of the feelings of these guys a little bit. And is there some of that there? Why aren't we seeing a guy even like Keontae George who still needs to develop a ton?
I will say I was sort of surprised that we saw Bryce Sensabaugh instead of Keontae.
Right.
Because Bryce Sensabaugh was, like, don't get me wrong, Bryce Sensabaugh is far from a perfect NBA player, but I would say he was more consistent at stages last year than Keontae was, right? Like, he knows his role. I'm going to stand on the wing, I'm going to catch this ball, and I'm going to shoot it, right? With Keontae, it's like, am I a point guard? Am I, like, going to be taking shots off the dribble? Am I a catch-and-shoot guy?
And the front office feels like they'd be more committed to the guy they picked 16th a couple of years ago versus Bryce Sensabaugh, who, again, I think that they looked at, what was he, 28th overall?
28th,
it's not that people are like looking at him and going, no, we're not going to develop you. But it's more like, hey, they're putting a lot on Keontae George's shoulders.
Yeah. Like I said, I would have thought nothing of it if none of the third-year guys were there. But the fact that it was Brice instead of Keontae was interesting to me. And with that said, I don't know if Brice is going to play tonight. Like, I don't know. There's a chance they're like, okay, dude, you had 16 points in the first half. You're good. Right? You can watch these games now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I also think that I think that Austin Ainge likes Keontae a lot because there was a lot of speculation, like with drafting Walter Clayton. Like, there's a lot of redundancy with like Jordan Clarkson, Keontae George, and now Walter Clayton. But I think that they want to see what's going to happen with Keontae. I wouldn't be surprised if he starts more this next year than he did last year. As you know, last year he sort of filled a sixth man sort of role for the Jazz. But yeah, I think Keontae and Brice, all the third-year guys, might be done in Summer League. Maybe Brice will come back for Vegas, but I think he might be done in Salt Lake. Who knows?
I think all those guys want to have like a little bit of a go in Vegas for a minute. And
exactly.
That's the cool, like posted on social media. We're staying at the Wynn and we're playing at the... So there's always a little bit of that. Taylor Hendricks you brought up, and and you mentioned his name, and then I thought, oh man, the Jazz are so good about keeping us updated on injuries. Not, but they do. But I do want to know, like, have we heard anything about where he is in his development and in coming back from that injury? Because now we're all starting to look around and go, what's the time frame look like here? We're talking about almost a year now.
Mm-hmm. So I think that we're not going to see him in Summer League, of course. We're not going to see him in preseason. I think he'll play in Game 1 for the Jazz of '82.
Okay.
But I also think even if he is like, oh, I feel great. Like I know that he's jumping. I know that he is like cleared for on-court activities in practice. But I think the Jazz are going to be like, even if he's ready to play 30 minutes, I think that they will be like, okay, let's put you out for 10. And then in a couple weeks, after a few 10 games, we'll put you at 15, right? Where they're going to sort of slowly push him back, even if he's ready, just because that was a terrible injury he went through.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously you want to pump the brakes on any kind of like trying to speed it up too much. And you don't have... That's the other benefit, I think, is when you have this young team, you want to have a lot of touches, and he's one of those young guys.
Yes.
But you also can't rush something like that. It was a massive break. It's a bad deal. And, you know, we saw the Pacers today say Tyrese Halliburton's out for the year. Like, we're not going to mess around and be like, get him back for June, you know, or whatever, for May. Nobody wants to hear that. You want to get these guys right first, and half of that is the mental part of it too, and trying to get these guys back and feeling good about it. Chandler Holt joining us here on JJ and Alex. He's the host of Jazz Notes with Ben Anderson. You can see his byline also KSLSports.com. If it's Jazz related, it's usually going to have that on there. Give me the impact of the Kevin Durant trade, and first of all, how phone calls happen to make a 7-team trade. It's a record deal because it's a stupid number of teams involved in one trade. But that just shows the complexity of trying to get deals done and the lengths that some of these GMs will go to make sure that they can get some things done. I don't even know where to start on a trade like that.
Yeah, I don't either. When I saw that, I was wondering if they were all just on a Skype call together. Like Zoom call, just like each GM has their own little square. They're like trying to talk to one at a time.
Why are we here? Oh, no, you got a second-round pick. Like, oh, okay, that's fine. Thank you.
Yeah, no, it was absolutely crazy. And I do think that Houston is a lot better after the KD trade. Like last year, they had so many great individual pieces, and then it was like, we just need a go-to guy, and they got that, even though it is set 37, however many years old, Kevin Durant. And something that I thought was interesting is I think that the Rockets were similar to the Jazz in a way, where it's like the Jazz are lacking the star power, but if you look at their team right now, they have like guys who can create for other players, Isaiah Collier. You have guys who can create their own shot, and Keontae George, and you have a bunch of length and guys like Taylor Hendricks, now Ace Bailey, Cody Williams. It makes me wonder, like, I don't think the Jazz are far away in terms of they have the supporting cast. They just need a guy or two. You know what I mean? Like, if you look at the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Indiana Pacers, this wasn't like the Miami Heatles where you have three guys up top. It's like you can go 10 deep, and like we can like outplay you, outrun you, because we have an unlimited amount of guys.
And we talked about how the super team's kind of dead.
Yes.
And the way to do it is the Oklahoma City version, the Indiana Pacers version. Where, and by the way, I mean, it was nice to be able to add an MVP along the way if you're Oklahoma City on accident. And Sam Presti's a genius. Yeah, he knew that this was going to happen. But I do wonder, like, if there is a timeline, you know, and it's tough because we're watching the hockey. we're watching the Mammoth be on a totally different path. And I know that's probably difficult for you guys who cover the Jazz to go, oh, great. Everybody's comparing like, well, hold on a minute. The Mammoth are in the playoffs or they're on the cusp. And it's like they've been very clear about we are in X year of the rebuild. Last year we're in the 4th year of a rebuild.
Yes.
This year they're like, we're not in the rebuild anymore. Is there a real like blueprint of a rebuild anymore? I think that people see Detroit and they see how many games that they improved on. Orlando's a team that's on the rise. Houston obviously made a massive turnaround. And I think people look and go, why can't we have that, right?
Yes.
That kind of a vibe. What's the reality of like a blueprint of, and is there a standardized like, hey, we're in year X of a rebuild?
Yeah, I think it's hard because you look at OKC and they basically had like what, 1 or 2 like actual like losing seasons, and then they get Jalen Williams, trade for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, draft Chet Holmgren. But then you look at Detroit, who was in the lottery for what, like 35 years in a row,
right? And they're the worst team. They don't get the first pick, and they lose out on that. And again, we see the similarities with the Jazz, but they also, with Cade Cunningham and with this young group they put together, I mean, how many games did they go? The biggest flip that they were the biggest flip that I've seen in a long time. It was like 17. How many? I don't remember how many games they won the year before, but they improved on it by like plus 45 or something like that.
Yeah,
it's bonkers.
A crazy jump. But I think that the thing to point out there is that they have Cade Cunningham. They have a 25 point per game
bonafide
level all-star, bonafide all-star, exactly. And I think that the Jazz are still looking for that. Like, you need that in order to like say, okay, let's go like focus on winning a title right now. Right now, the Jazz are focusing on building their roster, right? And I think that finally, I'm not saying that Ace Bailey is going to be a 25 point per game guy, but he has the tools to be that. Like, I think this is the first time in a while the Jazz are like, hey, we have a guy who could be like an all-star. We have a guy who could be an all-NBA level guy. And then, of course, with trading all of these veterans, you're already looking on to the next draft as well.
So when you see these other teams that are making these moves, and you see the Jazz who are being deliberate about how they make, they want to be able to bring the right guys in. They want to have Jazz DNA, all those things, right? The Ace Bailey move is looked at like the Jazz won that. I mean, why is there still this feeling of like, oh man, this team's going to be bad for a while when it feels like they won the draft when they won draft night, which is the number one thing for them. That's how they're going to build a team.
Yes.
I mean, obviously making trades is another option to be able to do it, but free agency's out, and to me, it looks like they've made some of these good moves. But what do you like about Ace Bailey so far? I know you said the rebounding number, but he's on the court and he's in there, and that whole business about his agent and his family and all those things, and all that noise seems to have gone away already.
Yes, I like his shot making ability. Like, that's the main thing that, like, if you watched 10 games of Ace Bailey at Rutgers, that'll be the thing that stuck out to you. But also, I think that he just has the tools for everything else. Like, the passing is something that hasn't really shown itself a lot, but he believes he's a good passer. And if that's something he's willing to do, like, you're already a step better than some players who aren't willing to do it at the very minimum. The rebounding, which I already pointed out. And then also, right now he's a good defensive playmaker. Like you saw in his first game, he had that game where he sort of let the dude get by him, and then it was like his little brother just jumped up and swatted it off the backboard.
Off the backboard, that's nice.
And then I think he has the tools to eventually be a good on-ball defender. But that's the thing is, I think even if he was taken with the 3rd pick, I think Ace Bailey was the most raw of the top 5 picks in the last year's draft. So he's like, in a way, he is a project. He has a lot of talent, but he's a project. So it's just like, can the Jazz unlock that? But the good thing, and I have said this since the Jazz took him, and even before, I think the Jazz were the best case scenario for him regarding basketball fit. Like, he's going to have like almost the ultimate green light to do whatever he really wants to do. I think you
should next time there's that Zoom call or maybe even a media scrum in person, you should say, you looked at it as kind of a project. You should bring that up in the first thing. Be like, yeah. All right, before we let you go, we don't talk that much about Lauri Markkanen, who's been this like kind of shadowy figure in the background of all this thing, right? Lauri, obviously, the biggest thing is they locked him up. You know, they got the max deal for him, and they're feeling pretty good about that. Where is he in? Because if there's a version of a superstar this team has, it's him.
Yes.
How's he feeling about this process and where they're at in all this? Because you still have to babysit a little bit of the feelings of what your best player has.
Yes. I will say, if you're in the NBA and you are like 27, like prime age, you want to win basketball games, of course, right? But with that said, like, there's no question that Lauri loves Utah, right? Like, he wouldn't have signed that $40+ million contract that locks him up, like you said, if he didn't like it here. So I think that he's aligned with what the front office is doing, right? Like, if he became trade eligible as soon as the last season ended. So if he didn't like what was happening, he probably would have demanded a trade.
Yeah.
Like, even if he isn't one of these guys that you would think would do that, if he was really that adamant about not wanting to be a part of it, then that would have happened. And I think that, like I said, I think that him and then these other veterans that they brought in, Kyle Anderson, Yusuf Nurkic, I think they will bring something to this Jazz roster that like won't be seen necessarily by Jazz fans. There is something there when you have veterans that can be like, hey, that was a bad shot, don't do that again.
Right.
You know, just things like that. But yeah, I think that there should be zero questions about Lowry in the short term, but when you're looking on to like next offseason and a little bit further than that, it's sort of the thing like, okay, Lowry's almost 10 years older than every other person on our roster.
That's
so,
pretty, that's a stark contrast.
Yes, exactly. So might be some questions in the future, but I think in the short term, almost a 0% chance he's going anywhere.
What's year 4 bring for Walker Kessler?
That's a great question. I don't know. I think that I said this in an interview on his own a couple weeks ago. I think that he is the most likely of the Jazz's young core to be here when they're winning again. Like, I think that they love him. And there's clearly teams like the Lakers who have been interested in him for years and years and years. But I don't know. I don't see them doing much with Walker.
Okay. All right. Chandler Holt. You can hear him on the Jazz Notes podcast with Ben Anderson. They just uploaded an episode today where they break down all of this and much, much more in a very much more deep level for the rest of you to nerd out on and to convince yourself in every direction possible for the Utah Jazz team coming up. Chandler, thanks for hanging out today, man. We appreciate it.
Of course.
All right, we'll take a break here. We'll come back. We've got much more to go around the corner. Stay right here with us. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.